Hello friends, welcome back to another episode of Virtual Coffee Meet, where we seek the experience and knowledge from our super seniors, from stalwarts, successful people in the form of inspirational words. And today, it's my honor to be here to have on this set with me Captain Puroshottam Barve. We all know him as Captain P.S. Barve. What should I say? He has had such an illustrious career and life. Whatever we know little bit, I would share with you before we start. He was a cadet at Dufferin in the year 48-50. So as early as that, I think very soon after independence, which means all of us can understand he was born to the pre-independent India. He sailed with Scindia steamship mainly and a little bit with SCI. He has an extra master's from Sir John Cass College, London, which he completed in 65 or to 67. Served the DGS from 61 to 91. A good 30 years, where he was at some point of time, he was the first Secretary Shipping, High Commission of India, London. Obviously, starting as a nautical surveyor, went on to become the PO, MMD, Mumbai, and later the Nautical Advisor to Govt of India. I think India has seen a lot of progress under his leadership and with his initiatives. Like the JNPT ports formation, maybe the TS Chanakya coming up, a lot for NIP in Chennai. The simulator courses came up around that time. Many of us would know that there was a committee which prepared a report by the name Barve Committee report, and that report developed the procedures for combined functioning of Mumbai Port Trust and JNPT. From 1989 to 98, Captain Barve was also the consultant to IMO. And I think he has done a lot of work in Bangladesh, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, North Korea, and been part of quite a few teams of IMO which worked in the Southeast Asian region. So you can imagine as it is what all has been the contribution of Captain Barve to our industry. He has always been a counselor, a consultant for training and quality purposes for SR for some time, and he's still Dean for shipboard training, structured shipboard training for Tolani, and had a major role when he was in the DG to raise the number of seafarers in international shipping. He received CMI citation for the year 2008. He also received Award of Excellence at the National Maritime Day celebrations of 2015. He is the Varuna Awardee of the year 2017. He has received awards of recognition by Marex, Samudra, FOSMA, NMIS, and many more. He's a fellow of the CMMI, fellow of Nautical Institute, and also member of the Institute of Marine Technologists. I think I would stop here now, sir, so we can talk more with you. So welcome aboard this virtual meet. It's really my pleasure to have you here and put forward a few questions and learn from your wise words.
Thank you, Ganesh. Thank you very much.
Sir, to start with, what I feel is that we would be happy to know how life brought you into Merchant Navy, and we were blessed to have you as our senior.
I was studying in a school called NMB High School in Pune. It's one of the very well-known schools in Pune. And that school had a practice of bringing out people or the students to various other sectors. So they used to have a kind of an introduction to the Training Ship Dufferin. Okay. They used to have prospectus shown on the notice board, And if anybody was interested, if any student was interested, they were prepared to prepare them for the entrance examination.
Right.
That's how I got head on to it.
Okay.
And the year I tried it and went to the teacher looked at my birth certificate and he said, young man, you're 10 days short for this entry this year. You see. So we said, all right, we'll try the next year. So that's what we did. In the next year we tried, we did the tuition, went for the interview, got interviewed without much problem. And fortunately, there were not many students those days. I mean, if I remember for the interview for selection of 50 people, I don't think there were more than 100 there.
Okay.
But we had selected 50 people at that time. In those days, we had engineers and nauticals together.
Yes.
25 engineers and 25 nauticals.
Okay.
The engineers stayed with us only for 2 years, while we stayed for 3 years.
Okay.
And the entry age at that time was 14 years and 10 months to 16 years.
Okay.
And I must have been just about 15 something. So that was really a young age with not much of education, I would say, because those days 6th standard wasn't a very high standard as of today. See, if I look at the 6th standard today, it's certainly very high, much higher than what it was those days. Right. But all that was made up, I think, on the Dufferin wage.
Right.
Though
right.
Dufferin didn't have much of scholastics as such. But at the end of the Dufferin 3 years, we were given a matriculation certificate by the University of Bombay. So we were at least matriculates at that time, not graduates, you see. And then once we got on the Dufferin, then it was, of course, like a machine job. Once a cadet joins in, he comes out as a cadet. That's all. I mean, nothing more than happens to him afterwards. He gets trained. I got trained everywhere, almost all spheres of activity. Games I never played before, I started playing.
Yes, sir.
The things that I never did, like sailing, pulling, all that came up naturally, so to say, afterwards. And at the end of the period, funny enough, though we were only 15, at the same time, the Nautical College had held 3 pre-entry classes for nautical boys and had passed out 150 cadets at the same time.
Okay.
And the next year was when they took the cadets, they took 75 cadets instead of 50 that we had, only nauticals.
Okay.
So in 1950-51, there was a flood of cadets, like it is now sometimes back.
Okay.
No cadet would get admission. And we only had what? India was not such a big company as of now. There was no shipping corporation. India's steamship was just starting up, like India's. Great Eastern was just coming up on the horizon. And there were a lot of British companies.
Okay.
So our batch, which passed out in 1950, almost didn't go out to sea till 1952.
Oh, okay.
I joined early, immediately afterwards, because I had a senior scholarship, fortunately. So I joined quickly and started the apprenticeship. But my cadets' parents just didn't have anything at all. In fact, India's was the first time they started cadet ships. They had liberty ships and they put 10 cadets each on board and took away the seamen.
Okay.
They did that for about 4 years after that. Anyway, that was the start. Then after that, I think everything went on as usual. I passed my second mates in 54. We had just started the prize for standing first. And I got that prize also. So there you are. Things keep on happening. I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know how to stop this guy.
So that's so interesting of a start, sir. So any other interesting stories or something inspiring that you may have faced in the younger days, which you would like to share with us?
No, nothing on the Dufferin. As I said, you put in a machine, you see. So once you get off, you get off a full plate carrot. That's all.
Or during sailing.
Everything becomes more or less standard, which is a very good thing in the Dufferin anyway. Which somehow that didn't stay afterwards for very long. But yes, as long as Dufferin was there, Chanakya was there, Rajendra was there. Chanakya something went off, unfortunately. But with Dufferin and Rajendra, the kind of this thing that we had remained more or less the same. So that is bound to happen because the things change and the way the training was done, the graduation came in, all this had different pictures altogether.
So something from your sailing days, various countries you visited, or when you became the nautical surveyor, early days, if there's something that you would like to share?
India sailing days, we had British captains quite a lot of time. In fact, I think except for 2 captains, all of my captains were all British. They had their own ways of doing things, but I think most of them, 6, 7 of them, that all had come through war. All had suffered through the war.
Okay.
In fact, 3 of them were torpedoed. They had different experiences to talk about, mention about, and all the rest of it. I think their way of seamanship, their way of navigation was also of an old style to a certain extent. We were just changing over our own styles, in fact. In fact, my first ship was, by today's standards, should be put into a museum. It had chain and rod steering gear. It didn't have a sounding machine. It had one of those patent sounding machines, which once upon a time we used to ask in examination only. There were no echo sounders. We had no gyro. Compasses, that's all we had. That is the kind of ship that I did my first year of apprenticeship. And she also had suffered during the Bombay explosion. So her decks were like that. She had gone through that particular period also. And she was a steamship. The diesel had already started coming in slowly, but most of our India ships that time were all steamships. But ours was a steamship with coal burner on top of that. So it really was an old ship. When I tell people now, they say, do they exist now? So that is the kind of thing. You say. Yeah, but slowly we changed over to liberties. Then came the new German-built ships, which are slowly coming into picture. But when I now consider, when I look at a person who comes ashore and tells me what kind of a ship it is, I get flabbergasted. My God, you have all this? You manage all this?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Which is what is the change required. Change is required not only in machinery and the equipment, but here.
Absolutely.
People have to adopt these changes. People have to sort of gear up with these changes. If you have a gear, which is used to happen to us also. In the early days, we started with radars. The radars came on board first. Here. There were captains who used to sleep with their key under their pillow. They didn't want anybody else to use the radar. They said, only I will use it. Yeah. That is the kind of thing a change now. You see. Now an apprentice can go and start the radar and work at it. Yeah. So that is the kind of changes that have happened quite a lot now.
Now it's like compulsory to keep it on almost always. It's like only when that too in tankers, when we are in port, we are supposed to put it off. Otherwise, it's always.
I mean, I remember when I was examiner for masters and mates, I used to ask questions to the candidates, not moment to know his knowledge about it, but to improve my knowledge. Because quite a lot of time I knew nothing about what he has been sailing on. I mean, a person came to me with a LPG ship. So now, know nothing about it. I mean, it's not even a part of the examination at that time.
Okay.
Or a person comes with a paper carrier of that, all that kind of things happening on board. discharging equipment changed continuously. All this increases your own knowledge, but of course, they have the knowledge.
Yes, sir. So, you joined the DG Shipping, and a major part of your life you served the country through the DG Shipping. Anything you would like to share from that part for us to learn as to do's and don'ts of our life? If you face some hurdles somewhere where you learned that we could have done things differently or something like that.
It's a bit difficult because so many changes have taken place already. Now, I remember when in the 90s, when we introduced the graduation on the Chanakya, lots of people were against. They felt, what's the matter? Even today, I think there are people who say, what is graduation for? We don't need graduates. We need only 10+2, that kind of a thing. But when I look back now, I see a lot of our boys which have done their Master Minor certificate are graduated, no doubt. I've started with graduation, have now taken law degrees, are MBAs, have taken finance. Where does it all come from? It came from because the higher education was given in the early stages. Those with only 10+2 didn't go to that level.
Yes, sir.
The highest level we went at that time was extra masters,
and in shipping,
which wasn't a popular thing for everybody around the places.
Exactly.
So this kind of a thing I noticed when I was abroad and doing my extra masters. I noticed that every master learner you met anywhere else had a BSc or MSc or already doing his administration, something or the others. Now that means we don't have to remain at sea.
Right.
You don't have to think only of sea. And if you can develop yourself in different aspects, different things, it would be a good idea. I think today we are doing it. I appreciate the people both on the nautical as well as engineering side, that they have gone into so many different spheres of activities. True. They're not only just manage ships, they own ships. True. That's a lot of change in that whole sphere. They're doing many other things which were never heard of before. Nobody talked about it. I remember when we first
from Bombay to London,
introduced the graduation part of it in the DG Shipping. My DDGs and my ADGs said, what do you want graduation for? After all, he said, you grow so much of pay as masters. Anyway, I said, the payment is not a criteria. They will get pay anyways. But where do they stand as? 10+2, that's all. You're not even going to look at them as anything else. I said, that is what we want. I mean, in the early stages, when I was working with SR and we developed a distance learning program, we approached the Bombay University, recognize us as graduates, recognize the second mates as graduates. They only did that after the Chanakya got degree. When Chanakya got degree, they said, okay, now your syllabus and second year syllabus is the same. So we will consider this equivalent for higher education. That's all. Because we confused it. Most of our boys confuse it today also. They think that's an engineering degree that they can put against their name. It is not so. It is a qualification given to you for higher education afterwards. But these are the changes that were necessary at that time. And today, of course, we have a large number of surplus people around. They are the ones who should look at this and say, all right, I did this, now I'll do that also. So maybe he once he does that while he doesn't got a job, no doubt at sea after doing his training, when he does the other education, he will get that job in a different kind of sphere of activity. I mean, after all, merchant marine is not just sailing. There's a lot of other things that are happening, which a lot of other people were doing previously. The commercial part of it doing, maintenance part of it is happening. All these were happening. Those days they were not master mariners or chief engineers. Now they are, which is what the change is good.
Exactly. I can relate to it, sir, because I was among the first few batches of the BSc. So we could see that there were so many more options to do, which I think, as you very rightly said, those who had only +2 and a short pre-sea service, for them to quit sea and go back to do a graduation with people younger age, and then only they could go into other avenues, was not the hurdle for us, because we already had the graduation. So the moment anybody would think of joining MBA or something else, any further studies, that initial hurdle of first doing graduation was not there. And we don't realize, yes, truly speaking, at sea, we don't need the graduation, but we are not, why should we plan, as you rightly said, that if we plan only for sea, that means we are not planning for that boy for his life. So which was a good transition, I would agree.
See, those are the things that keep on changing and must be accepted as we go along. I mean,
Yes,
as today we talk about STCW, which is what I have dealt with in my career in the DG shipping. Majority of my job was dealing with training and examinations and things like that. Though I was not involved directly in training, but I was involved in seeing what's happening and making sure this is happening, because that's what the examinations were all for. At that time, the early part of the STCW actually came in only in 85, 86. But before that, there was no STCW. And we had to keep on updating our own syllabus. Those days, we used to be in communication with UK and Australia. And we used to talk to each other. We used to send papers to each other to know exactly how they are changing, how we are changing, what extra needs to be added. So our own way of looking at STCW was there at that time. We used to change these things. I used to consult Captain Revari, Joseph, and Subramaniam all the time to say what else can be done. How can we improve this particular aspect of it? Right. After all, the shipping companies never came up with, I would like to have this particular added something or something like that. It had to be done by ourselves. Our own people had to look at that. So that's how we changed slowly. I mean, in the early, if you look at the second base examination papers in the, say, in 1962, 63, today's fourth standard graduate, a student can pass that. Fourth standard. It's that kind of mathematics we had that time. We slowly brought it up to second. Once we did the 10+2, we brought it up to 10+2, then we increased it further. That was the way to go about it. And we did it without, I would say, going through any guru rule changing or any particular aspect of passing law with the parliament or anything like that. We used to circulate it slowly among the candidates and among the college, and we used to change the rules. That's all. I'm sure if somebody would have gone to the court at that time to say, this is not mentioned in the rules, we would have been overruled. But luckily the colleges did not. I mean, college only, we had only one college that time, but they were in agreement with what we were doing. And that helped us. And the same thing happened when we introduced the revalidation courses. That was a big problem for all the masterminders. They used to say, what the hell is this? Why are we've been at sea for 5 years. Where is the problem? But the real problem was that in 5 years, he has been on one type of ship, one type of trade, one type of something. Has he known the whole thing? Has he looked at the whole business as such? He doesn't realize it. He doesn't know what changes IMO has done within that 5 years, which he will have to implement on his ship afterwards.
Exactly.
He only comes to know when he gets held up by the port state controllers. Hooray, he's there. I didn't know that. Nobody told me. That is the kind of thing that revalidation did. I mind you, it was a bit of a taxation. They used to consider that, oh, we have to come and stay there for 10 days in Bombay or wherever it was, you see. But that was the thing that I think was necessary, is still necessary. People still grumble about it. But I think this kind of an updating is all the time necessary. In all professions, they should have some kind of updating. Either you update yourself or you get it updated because you need to do that.
I found one interesting thing, sir. As I read somewhere, as you were the first Secretary Shipping High Commission of India, London. What would that mean, sir?
You see, every High Commission normally has a person who looks after different aspects of trade, of anything else. We used to have for a very long time, or we used to employ a very long time back, a lot of our ratings on British ships. In fact, our most of the ratings in those days were on British ships compared to Indian ships. We had larger ships engaged with them. And naturally, most of them used to go to Britain or sign off there or sign on there. So to look after those people, we used to have what we call a Seamen's Welfare Officer.
Okay.
And this Seamen's Welfare Officer used to be in London as well as in Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
But when the British trade started going down, or British shipping trade started going down, the number of ships came down, the number of ratings also came down.
Mm-hmm.
So the government decided that there are not enough ratings out there. So we need to do away with the welfare officers as such and put some technical people there who can do two things. Do this part also, look after seafarers wherever they require, but also look after whatever happens in the IMO.
Mm-hmm.
IMO was dealing more mainly with that, even now deals with it, technical things only. Now, if the technical things are discussed and there's nobody there technical to understand, then we are losing out.
Mm-hmm.
We used to send our delegations, we used to send our people there. But I think at that time, the government felt that sending a man out there was a lot of foreign exchange wastage and this and that and all that. So they used to say, you get information from there, whichever way you can. That was not working out. So that's how it was decided to put a technical person there. There was a lot of opposition from the foreign service because that means one job less for them. One job less for them in abroad. You see. But anyway, it was eventually agreed. And amongst our whatever surveys we had, I was selected to go there. I was selected to go there for 2 years, basically, not more than that. The idea was that I should be there for 2 years and then I'll come back and go to the usual spaces. Somehow, when the time came for relieving me, they couldn't find a relief because that they had to find a relief who is technical and who is not senior to me, because I'm senior to me in rank, because my rank was only surveyor's rank. So you couldn't take a deputy nautical advisor there. That way putting him down.
Okay.
It took government almost 5 years to do that, and I got stuck there for 5 years. So when I stayed there for 5 years, it wasn't because of my goodness or my qualifications, but it was just there because they couldn't put anybody there.
Okay.
And eventually, the government did put somebody there, put an engineer there, which worked very well. But he also had to stay there for 5 years. It was the same problem. And then I think the government got fed up of it. And we have nobody now there. So we have no technical officer there. Our officers from the DG shipping do go on deputation quite often. Now, more often than what they used to do before. We also have now some of the people going from the shipping companies who at least save the government the foreign exchange part of it. And that way we are improving our knowledge on IMO to a large extent. Right. I still feel that we need to be in IMO and look at what they are doing, how they are doing it, put forward our own views on the subject. I mean, it's no use after a regulation comes in, then you say, oh, this is not good, this is not good, we don't like it. It's too late. Or even if you write at that time, there's nobody to represent your cases. IMO is like a small parliament. You got to be there. You got to represent yourself. You got to show what you're saying. Just writing a paper doesn't work. that is the way it went through. And though, I mean, we now have people going up and down, which has improved quite a lot. We need to improve much more there. That's what that first secretary shipping was basically.
Makes sense.
Uh,
So,
uh,
at the IMO, I also read somewhere you did something for Kazakhstan, Mongolia. So, are these countries also maritime nations? Like, are they active?
Well, you see, IMO from the very early stage, have what they call a technical assistance program,
Yeah.
where they feel, and which is quite right, that all countries should have sufficient knowledge about marine part of it, because first of all, they do trade, at least if nothing else, must improve their trade, no doubt, and improve their manpower in maritime training also. So from the early days, IMO, right from the days of shipping, C.P. Srivastava, when he was Secretary General of IMO, he has been telling other countries to improve their training systems. And for improvement of those training systems, at that time, the only people who were really well trained or well educated as far as training was concerned was the Commonwealth countries, that is England, Australia, and people who had a lot of manpower to give was India. So in fact, our manpower, our officers from DG Shipping as well as from the industry had gone to Nigeria, had gone to Malaysia, have gone to Singapore, and many other countries like that, to bring up their either their education system or the examination system or the employment system. We actually went and held their hand and said, do this, do that. Even education system. I remember Captain Indrajit Singh went all the way to Bangladesh to build up their academy. I mean, as an experienced person there, he literally told them what to do, when to do, and what to do, that is what our visits were. In the early days, I went for these 2-3 visits, Mongolia, North Korea, and that Kazakhstan, whatever that is, were mainly to find out how we would be able to introduce these systems to them. It was a sort of a recce, to sort of go and check up what ground system they have, what needs to be done. So only after we came back and gave a report, then they decided, okay, we'll do this. But for that, they had to get the country's know-how also. And the country has to say, yes, I can give you lecturers, I can give you this, I can train them in you wherever you want. I mean, a lot of people from their side came to our colleges to be trained. They used to stay with us in the Mercantile Marine Department to find out how we do it. We went in the early stages to UK MMD to learn how they do it. I myself was in UK Mercantile Marine Department to see how they did this thing. Fortunately, I had done all the surveys before I went there. And then when the senior surveyor there said, you know everything, go, you do survey and come back. So he sat down back quite peacefully. That was it. But idea was to exchange knowledge and to improve everybody, not just to keep it to yourself. And it was not much. We used to say, I don't want to give this knowledge to him. I don't want to give this to him. I rather keep it to myself. So, and that you can see now, the STCW convention has been almost signed by everybody else. And you see, if you look at the training institutes in that, there's almost 80, 90 countries have got their own training institutes, which are doing good job. That is how we would develop the whole thing.
Makes sense. And I think it goes by our Indian tradition also to share knowledge across and not keep it to ourselves. Any final words of advice that you would give to the youngsters, sir? Youngsters, I mean, I'm including myself. And obviously the younger ones who are still coming out to sea. So what would be your advice, how we should shape our life so that we become successful and we are able to serve?
Basic thing would be to say that please keep improving your own knowledge, basically.
So,
Just because you got your master's certificate or you got your whatever administration degree, whatever it is, it doesn't stop there.
mhm.
Keep up. Keep learning. I sometimes give you the example of my colleague in TMI, Dr. Saxena.
Mm, mm,
Nah,
mm.
he did his engineering, he did his MEU, WMU. Then he went to the BITS Pilani and did their graduation program there, did their doctorate there, went and did, now he's doing law also. See, that is the kind of thing you keep on doing, is learn.
He
And
is an
that kind of
inspiration.
learning does not need a classroom. It does not need anything else. You see. All you need is to read what's happening and to learn from it, to do something else and pass it on. If you know something, pass it on to somebody else also. I think that is my way of looking at the whole system as such. I mean, when I did the distance learning program, idea was that the cadets, when they went out to sea,
Mhm,
learned nothing.
mhm.
They knew how to fill up the logbook, which was nothing, all correct. That's all. They knew some things here and there, but they really did not do any navigation, seamanship, or anything else. So distance learning program tried to put that into the pictures. Some people got it, some people followed it. Some masters said, oh my God, yeah, another bloody stupid thing, you see. Whether it was, you cannot help it. You can't help everybody to do that. But while I'm learning, I might as well teach somebody else. You see, if I'll pass it on, why can't I keep it to myself? Not everybody has a knack of teaching. Not everybody has a knack of sort of passing it on. But don't hold it to yourself. See what he is doing. Correct him. That's no problem. And quite a
Yeah,
lot of time you'll find at sea, we don't have people who are ready to do that kind of things.
very true, very true. As far as teaching is concerned, sir, when people become parents, they don't have the knowledge of parenting. So, but they have to do it. So if one wants to put in, even doing the right act the right way and showing as an example is more than enough. If he can't speak out or have that the trainer's ability, still performing the right way and showing it to them is more than enough.
Very correct, very correct. See, what happens quite often is, oh, he's an idiot. Don't give him that job. Don't do him anything at all. Don't let him just sweep the floor. You know, that kind of a thing happens. And then that guy is never going to learn this. And our whole system of certification today is more dependent on examination, but it is not really an examination system. After all, you had to learn as a midshipman, as a sailor or the seaman on the deck. And then you became a midshipman. Then you started keeping watches. And then you started becoming a master. All this was not with examinations. It was doing something. It was learning from doing. And our whole system is like that. Right. We got to stick to that system and then learn extras.
True, true. So it was such a pleasure, sir, to talk to you. And I think I would say it was worth the wait. And we wish you good health always, and we would pray to the Almighty to keep you here for your blessings to us, for our own selfish motive.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.